And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a small card game, one of the rabbit games from Dice Hate Me called Brew Crafters. Now this is Brew Crafters, the travel card game. That's because Dice Hate Me has made a very large and involved game called Brew Crafters. You can go check out my review of that, where you put different resources together to make, well, different kinds of alcoholic beverages. This is a much smaller, much shorter game that basically operates on the same premise, but it's kind of streamlined. I'll show you. In Brew Crafters, the travel card game, each player has a rep card in which they keep track of their rep, their points, unless you're playing a 4-player game, in which case teams of 2 will have their own. Players start with 4 cards in their hand. Some cards are placed up in the middle of the table. Each card is either an ingredient, so you can see here that this here is yeast, this here is hops, there's also malt and fruit and coffee as ingredients, or they are a special ability. There's either some kind of equipment or a worker. Now on your turn, the first thing that you will do is you will draw 2 cards. You can draw from the face-up cards, you can draw from here. After you're done drawing your 2 cards, any cards you took from the face-up cards are replaced. Then, player has 2 simple choices. They can, well, 3. You can pass, which will happen, or you can take a card and play it in front of you. That gives you the special ability of the card. So if I play this Hops Infuser, for the rest of the game, whenever I brew ale or lambic or special reserve, I get an extra point. So I can play that in front of me if I want to, and there's really no limit to the cards you have in front of you. You just can only have 1 of each type. Maybe this one here gives me 1 rep at the game end for each installed equipment card that I have. Maybe this here, she gives me 1 point at the end of the game for each hired person that I have. This here, whenever I brew, I can also play a card into my brewery. This one here gives me +1 whenever I brew porter or coffee stout or the special reserve. Or here after brewing, I can take a hops from the face-up draw pile. So there's different cards you can play in front of you. You can also brew. Now there's different types you can brew. I've already mentioned many of their names. We have ale, porter, lambic, coffee stout, special reserve. Each of these needs a specific type of ingredients. So maybe if I want to do coffee stout, I have to get rid of 2 malt, hops, a yeast, and a coffee card. I discard those cards and I'll take 4 points. Unless, of course, I have some way to get more points. Maybe I have the oak barrel house in front of me, in which case I would get 5 points rather than 4. So that's it. That's what the player's going to do. When one person reaches 21, the start player card, everyone else will finish up their turns. You'll add up any end point bonuses, and whoever has the most points is the winner. So really, other than that, there's just kind of a cards that are in the game. There's many cards that give you points if you have, every time you brew specific types of things. There are some where you can use less ingredients, like this one here. You use 1 less malt when you're brewing those 2 types of things. I think I can say here that of all the rabbit games, of the 6 that I played, I know that there's some more coming out in the line, but of all the little small games that Dice Hate Me has put out, this one is easily, I think, the best of them. Although I do like the Isle of Trains. But Brew Crafters is good. This one, I don't know how much I like playing the 4-player version of it, because essentially you're playing a 2-player game and there's just 2 people on each team. That's okay. But it does work really well with 2 and with 3 players. Enough that and it plays so quickly. Now, the first time I played it, I was like, I don't know about this. But the more I played it, I realized it's all about getting the cards out in the right combos. You want to play those cards in front of you that give you special abilities, but you also want to brew. I mean, you could never play a special card and just brew the whole time, but you probably won't win because that's not the most efficient way, although it seems efficient at the beginning because, hey, I just get points and points and points. You're wasting time putting cards in front of you. But once I get cards in front of me that let me put out 1 less ingredient and give me an extra point when I do something, and then after I brew it, I can take a card from the middle. Well, once I get that combination together, you realize I spent 2 or 3 cards to get an extra point and then got one of those cards back. That's a pretty cool combo, and the game has a lot of little combos. Now, I think that you will discover all the combos after a few games. It's not like the deck is that big, so there's that many different variations in. But for a filler, this does really well. I was very impressed, and I like the cards themselves. The little card that show you all the different kinds of things you can brew. It shows you how many of each card in your deck, so those fruit and coffee cards are important. You can use 2 of the same ingredient to substitute for 1, so if someone uses up all the fruit, you can still get fruit somehow, maybe if you have 2 yeast or whatever. And so it just plays very smoothly. My only complaint would be that I don't think the 4-player game was that interesting, and the token they give you to put on the card for points is bigger than the point spaces, which is a little annoying. That's all minor stuff. The artwork looks good, even if we do get to see the Dice Hate Me crew's faces in yet another game, but whatever. It looks good, it has a good flavor, fast and fun. I recommend Brew Crafters. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Chi sa porta?